This is my impression of a 1930s rubber hose cartoon character. They just did a lot of this. Okay, I think I'm going to stop now because I might be weirding people out. So Cuphead was an indie game that came out in 2017. It was a boss rush type of game where you just go around fighting big wacky bosses. And there were some other parts to the game too, like they had some Contra-style run and gun sections, as well as a lot of shoot 'em up sections as well, where you're flying around in a plane and shooting. But what really grabbed people's attention was the art direction for the game, because it mimicked the style of a 1930s cartoon. It had very smooth animation. All of it was hand-drawn, by the way. The game got pushed back a couple of times, I think, just so they can finish it and make it look good. And it looks fantastic. But at the same time, while it did reference a lot of old-style cartoons, it also referenced a lot of video game stuff, like a lot of gameplay, a lot of characters, and you would think that those two things wouldn't really mesh well together, but it did, and it looks fantastic. Cuphead is also known for being one of the most difficult games ever made. It's pretty brutal, and it's been the subject of many gamer rage compilations on YouTube. And they're so much fun to watch. Incidentally, if you'd like to watch me play the game, I actually streamed it not too long ago. I have 3 VODs of it uploaded to my gameplay channel, Rob the Casual Gamer, so you can go there and check it out. I'll leave a link so you can go, and there'll be a link at the end of the video as well. So you can come watch the first part and see how well it went, and then you can watch the second 2 parts and see how easily things fell apart. Spoilers though, I beat it, so yeah. So given the style that they chose for the game, an animated series seemed inevitable, and sure enough, one was announced. And unfortunately, it had to get delayed and pushed back quite a bit, because I believe it was scheduled to come out in 2020. And yeah, we all know how 2020 went, so yeah, I got a little delayed. But thankfully, Season 1 finally came out in February of 2022, and it premiered on Netflix. So the show is basically what I expected it to be. It's a big throwback to 1930s cartoons with the same kind of wacky jokes and shenanigans and settings that you would expect from a cartoon of that era. They also sprinkled in a lot of fun references as well, so if you're familiar with cartoons of that era, you're probably going to see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of familiar scenes. They also made reference to some old school animation techniques as well. There's a scene where Cuphead and Mugman are walking through a graveyard, and they're just kind of walking in the foreground, and they're superimposed in front of a miniature that's spinning to make it look like the scenery is moving behind them. And I believe that's something that Fleischer Studios did a lot with Popeye and probably some other stuff as well. And they even did a scene like that in the game where you're fighting Jimmy the Genie, and in the background there's like a city that's spinning around, and it's a model and not actually drawn. So that was a cool little thing they did. The story is somewhat similar to the game. In the game, you are gambling at the Devil's Casino and you lose and you have to give up your soul, but he says, go get the souls of all these other debtors and maybe I'll forgive you, and that's why you have to fight everybody. So in this one, there's no casino, it's like a carnival, and Cuphead loses at a game and now the devil owns his soul, but he manages to get away, and that's basically the overarching story of the show, where the devil's trying to get Cuphead's soul and then shenanigans ensue. And even though that's the overarching story of the show, it only happened in a couple episodes. Most of the other episodes are standalone adventures where Cuphead and Mugman are just in some sort of wacky cartoon situation, and then, again, hilarity ensues. Like, they have to babysit, but the baby's crazy, or, oh, Elder Kettle's sick, we gotta look after his garden, and then, oh no, something's gonna happen. So, there's a lot of situations like that. The voice acting is great. Everyone has a very era-appropriate way of speaking, so you get a lot of wise guy voices. They sound like this. I'm sure you guys has heard this before. Incidentally, I love that voice. And if I ever do get to make my own animated series, you better believe someone's going to be speaking like that. But what's interesting is that there aren't that many well-known voice actors in this show, at least not among some of the main characters. A lot of the side characters, though, have some really good talent behind them. For example, Wayne Brady is the voice of King Dice, who is just absolutely perfect. Gray Griffin, or Gray Delisle, or Gray Delisle Griffin, or whatever she's calling herself this week, is the voice of Miss Chalice, who shows up in the final episode of Season 1, who is just also perfect because she's so energetic and delightful that it's just so much fun to watch. Incidentally, Miss Chalice is going to be a playable character in the upcoming DLC for Cuphead. Isn't that a fun coincidence? So the show's visuals are definitely a lot different from the game, which is to be expected. But the thing is, the game's look seems a little bit more authentic to the source material. Like, everything in the game, like I said, is hand-drawn and so fluid and has a lot of life behind it. And it also has like a blurry filter around it. And if you look at the gameplay of the game, you would swear that it was just a 1930s cartoon, because that's exactly how they looked. The show, while it doesn't look bad, it definitely feels more modern, which, you know, it's to be expected because it's a modern cartoon. But I was hoping that they would go with a little bit more of the aesthetic that the game went with. It doesn't mean that the show's bad, but I do feel like the look of the game is a lot better and more appropriate for what the source material is. I also wish the show utilized some more characters from the game. We did see a couple of them. In fact, some of them were the focus of several episodes. But there were so many fun, wacky characters from the game that I really wish we saw more. Some of them showed up very briefly as cameos. Like, in the intro, you can see Kala Maria very briefly. And Grim Matchstick showed up in one episode at the very end for a couple seconds. But that's about it. So I do hope we get to see more characters from the game show up. In fact, I know there's going to be more episodes because they announced that Season 2 and Season 3 are also going to be released this year at some point. So that's something to look forward to. And I'm glad they are going to release more episodes because, well, without spoiling anything, the final episode ends on a cliffhanger. Don't leave us hanging. It's not cool. Overall, I enjoyed the show. Like I said, it was basically what I expected it to be, so I guess that's a good thing. But it was a nice little throwback to the 1930s style cartoon aesthetic. And I think that if you enjoyed the game, you probably will enjoy the show as well. In fact, you might enjoy the show a lot more because the show won't hurt you the way the game does. Go to Rob the Casual Gamer and check out my videos. Go watch what happened. Oh, God. I'm gonna have to play the DLC, won't I? But that's all I got for the Cuphead show. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of it. And who is your favorite character from the games? My name is Rob, and have a wonderful day, you wise guy.